have goals aligned with ours. This brings me to the theme of this session, artificial intelligence and human rights, where earlier the tasks that required mental comprehension and analytical abilities could only be performed by humans are now routinely and regularly being performed by artificial intelligence. Perhaps this is why artificial intelligence is said to be the last invention of the human mankind. But what exactly is artificial intelligence, and why is it said to be smarter than we humans? Created with the utmost profound sincerity of the human brain today, artificial intelligence, with its unprecedented ability to learn from humans and function autonomously, is now emerging as an independent technology and permeating in the daily lives of the humans, making them more dependent on itself by heavily permeating in every field. It cannot be denied that there is an inverse relationship between the speed at which the technology is changing and the law which is adapting to it. As a result, the current situation is posing serious ethical threats to the human rights, including violation of right to privacy, reputation, etc. I, Aishwarya Pandey, on behalf of Maharashtra National Law University, Mumbai, welcome the distinguished dignitaries to the most awaited session on artificial intelligence and human rights. This session will be presided over by well-learned speakers and experts in the present domain. The first speaker for this session would be Advocate Satyo Kondinya sir, who is a lead of litigation and licensing at Reliance Industries Limited Geo Platform. Sir has been leading and overseeing Geo's IP litigations, including SEP litigation, strategizing IP and data privacy law for Geo platforms and its acquisitions like in AI, drone technology, AI VR segments. He has previously worked as an independent consultant in IPR drafting, patent pooling. He has previously also been a senior associate at one of the leading law firms like L&L Partners and Remfry Sagar. We are delighted to have your presence with us, sir, today. I now request our HOD, Dr. Anand Raut, sir, to kindly felicitate sir with a memento as a token of respect. Thank you, sir. I now welcome the second speaker for the session, who is also our co-patron, Mr. Bhupesh Dahiria, sir, who is the CEO at Aegis Institute of Data Science. With over 24 years of experience and exposure to higher education, edutech, entrepreneurship, innovation, skilling, data science, and artificial intelligence, Mr. Bhupesh is the managing trustee of Aegis Knowledge Trust. We are immensely delighted to have you with us, sir, today. I request Dr. Swapnil Bengali, sir, to kindly felicitate sir with a memento as a token of respect. Thank you, sir. The third speaker for today would be Professor David J. Gunkel, Professor at North Illinois University, who would be joining us shortly through the online platform. We also have Mr. Arvind Pardesi as our special guest today for this session. Mr. Pardesi is the Deputy General Manager at Geo. I request Dr. Swapnil Bengali, sir, to felicitate him with a bouquet as a token of respect. Thank you, sir. I now introduce to you all and welcome our moderator for the second session, Dr. Swapnil Bengali, sir, who's an advocate and honorary director at CICTL, Maharashtra National Law University, Mumbai, who would be taking charge over the knowledge-rich panel. Before we commence, I request the participants to direct their questions at the end of each session. They may note their questions in the notepads and pose it towards the end of the session to the moderators. With this warm welcome, we now commence our second session on artificial intelligence and human rights. I request and invite our moderator to take over the session.
Thank you, Aishwarya, and a very good afternoon to all of you, and warm welcome again. I hope you all had good lunch, and post-lunch sessions usually, there's a heavy duty now to start with the discussion regarding artificial intelligence, a little bit of fintech, and obviously human rights. And I'm slightly happy that today I'll not be speaking much because anyways, two speakers are there. But when you say that you are a moderator, you have to open things like, the way the subject matter should move ahead, and obviously, the discussion should come out to that fructifying outcome, right? Obviously, three speakers with more than 1.5 hours of time, so we have a little bit of luxury. So I still, a past professor and now a lawyer can take that privilege to speak a little more, right? When the topic came to our mind, firstly, that we should do something with AI and human rights, and obviously fintech was something there at the background. Me and my team in MNLU, including that of Dr. Garima, Dr. Anand, Dr. Tanya, and Astha, we had a discussion that something that could really trigger the understanding in terms of how exactly it is impacting on day-to-day life of the individual. And it suddenly, we got a little close to that feeling that there might be two extremes, like, one completely a technical subject matter and the other being human rights. But they do meet, right? And there is a direct impact on it, but many a times we forget about it because our human mind is like that. And it reminded me a sentence of a legendary scientist, none other than Albert Einstein. Once he said that it is appalling to see that our technology is exceeding humanity. It was a very touching sentence. The first time when I read it, I felt like, oh, are all the technical guys really not taking this into their considerations when they evolve something as a technology? And then it also reminded me of a story which is always told to any single person in Maharashtra by his parents or grandparents. It's about a very small story which later on probably was modified with the time. And the story is of monkeys and the person who used to sell caps. So there was this chap who used to sell caps, and usually, he used to stay in a very small village. So every single market day in a week he would walk with his bunch of caps on his shoulder, and by walking only he would go to the town. And there was one spot where there were trees and all. He used to take a rest over there, just probably mid in the path. This is a stoppage time for him, just to take a rest. And one fine day what he saw was that there are too many monkeys on the tree. Some of them were very, very mischievous. When he was just resting a bit, they pulled out all his caps and started running away. His whole business, whole daily income was at stake. He did what he could physically, couldn't retrieve the caps from the monkeys. Then he found that there is one cap lying over there. He said, monkeys mostly, copy men. So let's try me something. He was anyways absolutely obsessed, somehow he should meet his bread, this can't happen to him. So what he did is, put the cap on the head and threw it again and again. So after 2 or 3 attempts, what he realizes, monkeys were observing him and they also threw the caps. That's it. His job was done. This experience is shared with his next generation. Again, next generation. It's knowledge, right? It's experiential knowledge. He shared it. It went on. The second generation son was also, following the same path. He also experienced it a bit. Son was slightly, over smart. He said, nothing doing, I'm not going to wait here. Forget about it. I'll go to the marketplace and then wait. He had his own technique to deal with it. Then came the turn of a grandson. Third generation now. Went the same route. Somehow, he followed his grandpa. He waited near the tree. And he thought that even if the monkeys are there and they steal the cap, still, I'm trained for this, right? I'm trained for this. So he took the chance, waited there, and the usual expected thing happened. Monkeys took over the caps. So now he knew I'm trained. Yeah. So he again took out one cap, threw it angrily twice, but to his surprise, monkeys didn't throw the caps. I was thinking, what do I do? I'm trained for something and this training is not working now. Actually, this is what happens with most of us. We know that there is a trouble, but the problem is that we don't upgrade the solutions like they upgrade the technology. Monkeys are the same, tricks are the same, but we have to upgrade our understanding that how we solve it. AI, probably fintech, you see it from any angle. It was not supposed to be, or it was not meant to be, at any stage, retrograding the individual rights at all, right? It was meant to be rather supportive towards human functions, but it was taken absolutely in a different way, in a different manner than that of what we thought of. And there's a reason it is very, very important to understand the interrelation between the AI or any technology for that matter together with the human rights. Just imagine, we say that we have advanced enough in the last 2 to 3 decades. It probably is a very remote situation, like what we see usually in the Hollywood movies. Suddenly the man doesn't know his past, suddenly wakes up one day and just trying to figure it out what his identity is. It worries me more that if something like this happens to an individual today, who is waking up after a coma of almost around 30 years, what his life would be. Are we talking about human rights? Are we talking about technology? Are we talking about science? Are we talking about development? And even if he comes back to life, the normalcy, still his challenge would be how to cope up with what he's seeing today. Probably he was not exposed to, or probably was exposed to mobile phones, but not as smart as they are today, right? What his life would be. Probably would like to forget those 30 years what he has faced in the hospital, lying down there. Or probably would try to say that, oh my God, I don't want to be here, I'm not from this planet at all, right? Adjusting would probably be that scenario where, after a point of time, the law would try to reach, I guess. In the morning, one of the speakers has suggested that, we see what happens. 60 plus year pensioners, 60 plus year old pensioners, today they want to give a certificate to the banks that they are alive. Well, we are all lucky that we are not Mutsatti Lal of office to prove that we are alive today. We're all lucky, right? Technology may play something like that to all of us, right? Who knows? Not very sure. Might happen, right? Yeah, good. We believe into that something which is known as jivanpraman.com. Government has created the site. We feed it in. We say, wonderful, I'm alive. I've given the proof. I'm ready to sign. My fingerprinting, my biometric works well. Well, those also leave you after a point of time, right? I mean, I studied it in forensic science. Correct me if I'm wrong. That our fingerprints, after an age gap, would not be the same. My biometric may not even match sometimes, right? A very delicate situation where we are only tempting to use one biometric element for Aadhaar card, probably for bank, for links, whatnot. If I today deny a 60-year-old plus person, let's see, this is our technology, this is not something which we create as a matter of exception to anyone, and we say, sorry sir, we all respect you because you're 60 plus, You are a senior citizen, you are a super senior citizen, and we are really sorry, but our systems say that you don't exist. I mean, the data doesn't match. Probably the man has to wait for 1 month, 2 months, because individuals, especially from our own country, India, they'll say, when the problem occurs, then we'll find a solution, right? Till the date the pension is not credited, right? So next month if it's not credited, then I'll search for the solution. I will not go for the solution right on day one, whether it has been done or not, right? I'll go for the solution when the problem occurs. So poor thing, I mean, after 60 years of age, 60, 65 years of age, one fine day he figures out, okay, there is a facility known as Jivan Praman. I do that, my biometric doesn't work, it's not been uploaded, I don't know, I don't even know that. And then after a point of time, I get to know that, oh, my pension is not credited. So now I am searching for the solution, what can I do? It's one side, it's the technology. On the second side is the law. Bankers would say, see, this is what we follow. There's no other option. We have to follow this. And thirdly, it would be the human rights of that individual. It's fine if he is having some sort of family backup, financial backup. There might be a possibility that he is self-dependent. But what if he is dependent only on the pension? Are we not violating his human rights? We are. It probably is just a matter of one small transaction which could be 40,000, 50,000, 1 lakh rupees, right? How are we going to answer that? First question. Well, in the morning, when Daswani sir was speaking, there were so many don't knows, right? We know and we don't know, right? Now here comes some of the lists of don't know, probably. Just imagine. In the young age, probably 20, 25 years of age, I post something on the Facebook or probably on any social media or even for that matter Google. It remains there. Probably people attach my identity towards that photograph. They don't realize it. I also don't realize it, what exactly I have done. But probably after 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, suddenly I become a very, very successful man. And now, after attaining that level of popularity and publicity, I suddenly realize, oh my God, this is something which I would hate people see this. And usually behind the popular people there is one person or one engine which is always searching you, even if you don't want to, is search engine like Google, right? And somebody Googles me and then says, Mr. Bengali, 20 years ago, see? How embarrassing it would be for me if I don't want people to see that. Well, that's where it comes. Right to be forgotten, right? Can somebody guarantee me right to be forgotten? Because that also part and parcel of my rights, individual rights, right? Where am I going to take it when I say human rights? Probably today we have not developed enough in terms of legal understandings to say that my right to be forgotten is equivalent to my human rights. But I have no doubt in my mind that within the near future it would come in. It depends upon the sensitivity. We had fought a very strong case in the Orissa High Court few days back. And the girl had a relation with the boy tried to, typical case of sextortion, you know that. The boy had a relation with this girl and then, after a point of time it went slightly ugly. When it was good times, he had clicked some photographs. It went to a very different relation altogether than it was prior. And the boy started doing all the mischievous things. Opened a Facebook account in her name, started exploiting her, started, did what worst he could do, in short. So obviously, nabbed him, got him to jail. Then he contests and, bail. Probably after a few days he got the bail in the Sessions Court. And we challenged it even in the High Court. And then it went on to that level. And the girl's basic contention was twofold. The girl's demand was only one, that those photographs are still there. People can see it. There's a chance because he's kept his Facebook account public. Now, I want it to be stopped. So there has to be a notice issued to the intermediaries as well. It is her right. But our problem is twofold. Our constitution says that you can exercise your fundamental rights only against state, not against private players. Do what you can. Facebook could not be issued notice, probably only in terms of content being wrong. You are just knocking the doors, please don't show this, please don't show this. But till that time, it was taken out, already the damage was done, right? Same thing happened in the recent past to one of my lawyer friends. You know, the typical thing that is going on today. You get a video call, WhatsApp call from a unknown number, and if you pick it up, within few seconds they just take your pictures, and then they'll start editing it, morphing it, and then they'll come up with, you know, all sorts of pornographic content over it. They'll start sextorting it. He just called up and said, Swapnil, what do I do? I said, you're a lawyer, you shouldn't even ask me. I said, I didn't get you, what? I said, tell him, anyways, I'm a lawyer, I need publicity. Do what you can, share it to everyone. नाम नहीं हुआ तो क्या, बदनाम तो हुए, पता तो चला ये lawyer है. That's fine with us. He said, yeah, this is also a reverse thing to understand, yeah. He said, it works. He called up that guy and said, जो करना है तेरे को कर. Post those pictures everywhere you want. I'm not going to pay you a single penny. Yeah. And it actually worked. After 15 days, he stopped calling. Now tell me, if I use the same proposition again with right to be forgotten, or probably some kind of sextortion at this level, where exactly am I standing? Is my right to be forgotten still intact? Do I have that technological safeguard to say that yes, even if this happens, I am safe? And in that sense, is my human rights intact? And on the other side, again, this can be said and this can be evaluated by a lawyer more, because he is connected with the society and he knows what is exactly happening in the society. But at a larger spectrum, when I see this in terms of the amount of technology that is coming in our lives and the kind of responses that we are demanding from the society at large and from the legal fraternity, including that of the judicial determinations, we will be absolutely evolving day by day. It's like on one side you are having a technology which is going supersonic, going fast, and on the other side you are settling down with certain set of rights. Probably a time would come when we say, okay, we are settled, but by the time we get some more surprises. Metaverse would be, the other side they are discussing on Metaverse. That would also be one more hesitant technology I would be taking into my mind. To be very honest, those people who are born before 1990s, and have seen the advancement in the last 30 years, I feel so different about them, I must say. Sorry, Satyaki, you might be very, very young than me, but then still.
I'm before 1990, so I can...
Oh, before 90, you can completely understand, okay. Well, then take it as a compliment.
Yes, absolutely.
See it this way, that those who have seen the technology grew, and then reversely if I see it, it's too much of change that we have seen. Those who are born prior to 1990s and today also they're seeing it, right? Is it a kind of a force that we are having, as an element of force that we are having on us? And if you want to, be socially more active, you have no other option but to take this, right? So our learning, the generation which is born prior to 1990s, actually has no stoppage of knowledge and college. You have to accept every single thing that is happening around you. So if a son or a daughter asks me a question, itna nahi pata, ye aisa hota hai. I said, boss, you come down to 40s and then you'll realize what it is. Right? Then whole life, when the school never had a computer, a school never had a mobile phone, we had a different upbringing altogether. And suddenly we were shifted to a complete technological zone. It's like almost saying a passenger, well man, come on, pilot is not feeling well, just you take over please. It's like that. But see, eventually we have adjusted with it. But is this adjustment also a violation of a human rights to an extent? I would say yes, definitely. I mean, I feel it personally. I personally never used to like that subject, human rights. There are hundreds of reasons for it, to be very honest. I must say this. But when it comes to technology versus human rights, I feel, it exists. Because as a person who has done his masters in constitutional law and legal order, I always felt it. If you say that the human rights issues exist in India, accept one of the three things. That our judges don't do anything, police doesn't exist in this country, or our constitution is bakwas. Neither of the three things can exist, right? So basically human rights protection is already there. This is what my thought process was. Those who are supporters of human rights might feel bad, but I'm so sorry for that. And I'm not sorry for one thing, that the way the technological development has actually took over this area, I started feeling that even the set norms of constitutional law are also falling short. What do I do? Now I am afraid of my own rights. It might be in the sphere of, holistically the area of right to be forgotten, or probably, as I said, denying a man his very right at the age of 60, 65, that his pension cannot be issued because, sorry, the biometric doesn't work. There might be a number of situations like that. In short, what? We will be facing this. Whatsoever would be the outcome, you see, law will take its own course, no doubt. We came up with, forget about even one or two types of technologies, or even AI for that matter. See, last year we had a scenario where suddenly the government came up with the rules regarding intermediaries. They said that we need to have one common ground for our understandings, that whatever you do on your social media, or probably on anything that you call it as falling under intermediaries. Intermediaries are liable to an extent that they should at least provide us who was the first originator in terms of communication. This is a bare minimum expectation. If you want to do business over here, you have to follow something, right? And then comes the issue again. People talk about it, that why government is so interested about it. You want to know how the communication worked, how the communication came into existence. You want to basically decrypt the whole thing. But it surprised me even more that for 2021, 22 years almost now, since the Information Technology Act came into force, and we are now saying that the intermediary rules say that we have to show what it is, what we are dealing with. Does it really mean that now decrypting is an issue? Now it has become an issue because you are asking from social media, so it has become an issue. So your privacy, your all other things of private attributes of your life are coming into picture, coming into light. But to be very honest, since Information Technology Act came into force, there is a provision which defies privacy. You know that? Section 69. It says that in public interest, or in case of public order, in case of public emergency, any officer of the state or central government specially assigned can decrypt any data, and if you dare not decrypt it before these authorities, they will send you to jail for 7 years. So that time we didn't realize that the privacy is an issue. Probably that was not the centrifugal point of discussion when the IT Act came into force. It came in later on in point of time. Government has this power, we knew it probably, but now it is going to the core, my communication. Now they can ask the social media handlers that, oh, this you have to show us, and we do it on a daily basis. As in the morning many of the speakers were speaking about daily number of hours that a person spends on social media or on the device. Then we are thinking about it, oh, these rules seems to be slightly draconian. Already there was a provision in existence since 2000. We didn't pay any heed to it. If I say no to a police officer or probably any investigating agency that please don't see this, my privacy is more important to me, he would say 69 dekha kya? Chalna hai andar 7 years? Then I would be, acha, so you have a power to search and seize. And any which ways, since 1954, I think it was MP Sharma's decision, it's very clear in India, Supreme Court has already given the idea. Search and seizure cannot be stopped for the sake of privacy. Forget about it. So in my opinion, privacy doesn't exist. Bhul jao. It's a ghost. I have not seen it. It might be existing. I don't know. Right? Have to deal with such situations every now and then. And when I see this area coming in, we were trying to befitting into that zone of technological transformation, right from a phone to a mobile phone to a smartphone. वैसे आजकल वही है, बंदा स्मार्ट नहीं है चलेगा, फोन स्मार्ट होना चाहिए. Data is useless, data is very, very costly. Right? This is what is happening with us. I know for sure when I connect it to the subject matters that are there, I have no doubt in my opinion that, in my mind that, the kind of variety that these two and obviously Professor David is going to bring in, but definitely give you a thought-provoking exercise and definitely we'll have a good discussion about it. Satyaki will be dealing with certain contractual aspects as well as AI and as well as licensing together with human rights, and obviously our partner Tehria sir would be discussing about an overview altogether in terms of AI. With this, I think I have taken much more time than I was thinking of. Thank you so much, and I will move on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the thought-provoking introductory sessions for me. So, I mean, you really have set the stage and made it really difficult for me to place in a perspective which is technology-friendly, so to say. By way of introduction, I am Satyogi. I lead licensing and litigation at Geo Platforms, and a larger part of my work also involves building frameworks, especially AI frameworks for Geo's acquisitions in different business verticals such as drone, medtech, chemtech, AI/ML, etc. The expectation from me was to give a perspective on how a technology developer works in terms of creating framework, and that's where the crux of my emphasis is going to be. But before that, I would just like to kind of walk you through certain theoretical aspects of AI, what an AI is, and what are the concerns that an AI brings forth, and how is it as a technology developer that we kind of go ahead and build in certain balances to be able to counter-check those sorts of issues, which primarily include data privacy. So Ray Kurzweil is the founder of optical character recognition, OCR, as we very generally know in, you probably would have seen in, this is on the board. In PDF readers, etc. One of the earliest models of AI, as you would well know, where characters were fed into a model, and they were able to recognize characters. And he said that the art of creating machines that require intelligence, if it were to be performed by people. And at that point of time, there was a matrix which was developed, just one, put in like another one more, yeah. So there was like a thought behavior matrix where the dichotomy of a human behavior versus a rational behavior was made, and the dichotomy of a human thought versus a rational thought was made. So where is it that you place an artificially intelligent being? At that point of time, this is early 1960s, the idea of sentience or systems that could think independently of each other. Right now we call them conscious beings. People, systems which have got a consciousness to it, which are able to act independently, like the monkey of the third generation, which did not drop its cat because it realized I'm going to make a mistake here. So we realize that systems that are able to mimic human beings are probably systems which have got an artificial intelligence to it. Any other systems are systems which are intuitive in nature, but may or may not have intelligence to it. Next slide. So one of the very common models of AI is what we call machine learning. Well, there are different other dependencies as well, which I'll probably cover in the next slide. We've got like a super subset of AI, which is a technique which enables machines to mimic human behavior. And there is a subset which is machine learning, that machines are learning from whatever data that you're providing to it through different algorithms, statistical methods, computational analogies, etc., etc. And with each new data set that is being fed into it, the experience of that AI machine or the machine learning model increases. And there is a subset to a machine learning which is called deep learning. So it's obviously the deep learning goes into the technological implementation of it, which includes neural networks. Neural networks are generally artificial algorithms, you could say, that are made to mimic the decision-making process of a normal human being. So it is with this framework that an AI is created in one of its implementations, and we can look into the dependencies of AI in the next slide. Okay, another slide, please. So this is, as I said, the machine learning as a high-level representation comprises of, where you're placing input data, and there's a machine learning algorithm, and this algorithm is able to predict or give you a certain data set as an output, which you evaluate and make it better by training this machine learning algorithm into something which is called a model. So the model gives you a certain specific data set or a specific data learning that you are expecting out of it, and you can keep on improving it by putting in or placing or training it with more data. So by training data, we mean that keep on applying data until you are able to receive a satisfactory result. And by that satisfactory result, you have different ways of understanding what is it that you're expecting out of the model in terms of the accuracy of your predicted results versus the actual results, and what is the sort of data that you're using. So obviously this data has to be well labeled. So you cannot use any and every data into an AI model. It has to be a well-defined sort of a model. It has to be representational in terms of the data being structured. There are AI models which also use unstructured data, but generally the data has to be well represented in terms of the structure. Obviously the idea is there is a certain threshold of accuracy to which that model should give you results onto. And once trained, this model once deployed, this model processes and analyzes the input data and is able to give you the result. So this is the sort of representation that we use for an ML model. You can just give it the next slide. As easy as we may want AI to be, it is not. AI generally has myriad of dependencies, as you can see. It starts with data and it goes on to understanding, what are the sort of searches we are doing, what is the logic we've placed in those algos, what is the sort of knowledge representation we are doing, what are the expert systems which are guiding those data to be inputted into the AI system, etc., etc. And the manifestations of it probably could be seen in the way we are implementing AI in different models. For example, natural language processing that you would see in your YouTube recommendations, in your Netflix recommendations, in your vision. For example, the way a very immersive environment in a virtual reality or an augmented reality is created, or in robotics, which is a very prime example of how AI is deployed today. Obviously, as we speak, AI is revolutionizing the way that we are behaving to our daily lives in each and every moment that we keep on using devices that we interact with and are capable of interacting with each other. So with that sets the background for AI, and we come into something which is the ethical use of AI. And principally, we in India we don't really have any regulations for AI, neither in Europe. But so we rely on certain guidelines that have been placed for us to understand better. And a couple of those guidelines are principles of artificial intelligence issued by OECD, and there is a European Commission report on ethical guidelines to a trustworthy AI. So the reason trustworthy is said, the reason that we need to be able to trust AI falls into these four buckets of being fair, accountable, transparent, and to be able to protect data, or building like a layer of data privacy and security around it. So what do we mean by fairness? Fairness, as the word says, it means that AI users should ensure that there is equal access to AI technologies across all population groups for the AI to give you a solid result. So if you leave out any population group of a certain age or a race or an ethnicity, there is a possibility of the AI model to have a bias to it. Which is why a larger part of fairness includes training the AI model without bias, which means including all sorts of data that is available to you, but in a structured way, as well as to be able to use larger data sets, which also increases the problem because there we have the issue of consent. Then we have the issue of accountability, where we look at what is the sort of predictability that the AI model is providing to you, and the understanding is that the AI model should be able to have as larger of an accuracy rate that you would have probably foreseen the AI to have. Obviously, the AI has to be transparent in nature. By transparency, what these guidelines lay out is, for the information provider, a technology provider should be able to explain to the information provider that this is the way that the AI model is going to function, and this is the sort of interaction in terms of the data which is being fed into the AI model. And lastly, and the most important part is the data privacy and security implementation of it, where we also talk about something which is privacy by design. Not only that is to be able to build in those sorts of firewalls within the AI model, which is by itself able to provide the data privacy comfort to any information provider. So next slide, please. Right. So on behalf of Geo platforms, so one of a very specific use cases that we've been stuck up with is in the field of medical diagnostics, where we're working with healthcare providers to be able to build in diagnostic tools for diagnosis of certain issues. You could perhaps kind of take the example of skin-related disorders, where your photographs of skin, etc., for a certain disorder in the skin is taken and fed into an AI model, which is able to provide a certain diagnostic detail to a doctor who's using the tool to be able to provide that data to the patient. So, in terms of legal understanding, the way that we look at it is, what is the sort of information that is being fed into the AI model? Obviously, whether it's personal or not, and personal information means whether it's capable of identifying the patient or not. And then comes, there's SPDI rules, as we all know. These are 2011 issued rules, where certain category of data, such as your medical health, physiological, mental health data, etc., are categorized into a subcategory, which is a sensitive personal information. And the idea is, Section 43A of the Act, provides, building those guidelines, and the obligation is that an entity may transfer, sensitive personal information to another entity that ensures the same level of data protection that the transferring entity would have adhered to. And obviously, the transfer would be allowed only if it is necessary for the performance of the contract, or where such information provider has specifically consented to use of that information within the AI model. Section 72A of the Information Technology Act, obviously provides the penalties for obtainment of personal information and having the intent to cause or likely to cause wrongful harm or damage, who discloses any material, etc., with in terms of having criminal liability as well as civil liability of a fine of 5 lakhs or more, and there is a consent has been made, like a prima facie determination of understanding whether there was any intent to cause any damage or not. Next slide, please. Yeah. So within that legal framework, there is a transferring entity, or like a healthcare provider, who transfers this information to an AI developer, or us, who are basically building those ML models, who are kind of feeding that information to the ML model. Obviously, as I probably kind of went there in the previous slide, that we need to be able to ensure the same level of data protection. It is probably necessary for performance of the contract being that we will be able to deliver and deploy those AI models that this healthcare provider will be able to use to be able to give those results to that healthcare provider, and there has to be consent. The question comes in is, all of this is prospective in nature. What do we do about the legacy data? As I told you, for an AI model to give you better results of the information, we need more data. So we need the data of the patients who've already been examined by the healthcare providers. So, and obviously, it's going to be a very difficult proposition for the healthcare provider or the transferring entity to be to go back to their patients, to their legacy patients, and now take consents from them. So herein comes the question of or the exemption for anonymization. That there is no specific provision for anonymization or de-identification of data. So technologically, is it possible for a technology developer to anonymize the data to an extent that it becomes non-identified by anyone? So that includes removing all bibliographical details, all name details, etc., and to use only that information which is necessary for making that diagnosis. Obviously, once you've de-identified the data, it does not remain a personal information anymore. So de-identification of data can be personalized information. In the absence of any data regulations, we also look at the health data management policy, which is a part of the NDHM. And the NDHM specifically mentions that whenever there is a transferring entity as a data fiduciary, the technology developer would be identified as a data processor, and the obligations which are placed on a data processor and fiduciary would remain on to both of these entities. Next slide. Right. So here, when we talk about data anonymization, there is no regulations as such. So we look at policy developments, and this is very recent of September 1st, 2022, where anonymization guidelines were released by MEITY, and they were withdrawn on September 6th for reasons which are not known. While they talked about anonymization of data, the applicability of anonymization was only on e-governance projects only. There was no applicability of anonymization on other projects or application of the data into other activities, including AI. And obviously, the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2022 makes no reference to data anonymization, which is again like a grey area. And we presume that data anonymization is going to give us that benefit of not being liable, or that information that is fed into an AI model not being personal at all. Next slide. So here we come into judicial determinations of certain judicial determinations that that are relevant in terms of understanding the liabilities which are placed. And this is a 2019 TDSAT decision where IBBI as a bank, it failed to provide the necessary safeguards to provide a secure banking system. And as the entity collecting SDPI and determining use, as a data fiduciary was then responsible, and not the technology developer. Again, pursuant to right to privacy being declared as a fundamental right, the Karnataka High Court held that an informed consent, whenever there is an informed consent being taken, then the liability and that informed consent is placed in a privacy policy, etc., as the SDPI rules give you. Then there is no responsibility on part of a technology developer to provide you additional safeguards. So here, there was an informed consent explicitly being placed by the Karnataka High Court, which we take advantage of and build very informed explicit consents to the extent possible in terms of getting or explaining the sort of role that our technology model will be able to deliver to the transferring entity. Another case of 2011, where again this is a case of consent, is where there was no specific consent. Then that information cannot be used for the applicability of the information cannot be in those areas where there is no consent. So again, there is like a huge emphasis on consent, or an informed consent, or an explicit consent insofar as use of the information is concerned. Needless to say, we don't really have any judicial precedent on AIs as such, but we definitely hope that these judicial determinations will help us in building any precedents whenever those come in. Next slide. So, what are the necessary safeguards that we build in as an AI or for an AI or tech developer? So, one of couple of those that we look at is for one, we look at DD measures or due diligence measures being conducted by the transferring entity to examine compliance with SDPI rules. Obviously, we would like to clearly set out responsibilities and warranties for the transferring entity, which is backed by general indemnity. Obviously, indemnity may mitigate civil liability, but it does not mitigate criminal liability under Section 72A, which is again like a concern for us. We've got the certain directions issued which mandatorily require transferring entity to report cybersecurity incidents. And obviously, we, as an entity, look at having the transferring entity conduct annual audits and to provide audit track reports. In terms of an AI data privacy sort of an angle, these are the necessary safeguards that we generally look at when we understand or go into these sorts of transactions. And I think that will be all from my side as a tech developer. Thank you. And probably
Well, Sataki sir, thank you so much. This was really wonderful, too many perspectives. Obviously, at the end, when we will go for the question and answer, we'll definitely discuss it. But now it's time for Bhupesh sir to take over. Sir, I invite. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Swapnil. And Satyoki, thank you so much for setting up the context. So I think you have done a lot of background work for me. I don't have to really explain what is AI, what is machine learning. You've already done. Yeah. So great. So my name is Bhupesh Daria, and I don't have 20 years experience. I have over 27 years experience. That's the 3-year-old. So I have worked in education, telecommunication, optical fiber. I started working in EdTech when this word was not coined in around 2002. I built up a lot of education systems, like I built India's first online testing system. I built India's first online application system. I'm also involved into higher education, and we were fortunate to start India's first postgraduate program in data science, business analytics and big data, and I ran AGS School of Data Science. We also have applied AI program, machine learning, deep learning, and I'm glad to welcome all of you for this session. My intention is not to give you the solution. My intention of this talk is to raise a lot of questions, right? Provoke your mind to really start thinking, because we have a real intelligence. So let me start with example, right, which is not imaginary example. Let's imagine, so Dr. Swapnil gave example of human right violation of a 60-year-old when AI system is not able to really do the KYC compliance, and that old gentleman is declined of his human right of getting a pension, because if he doesn't get the pension, he'll not be able to sustain his life. He's not able to really live. That's the one angle. In traditional system, let's talk about, so during COVID, there's a video compliance is there, right? So you can really start your mobile phone and the bank manager can really see your face. So for last session, Dr. Gangopadhyay will be coming, and he was narrating me his example. He is an IS officer. He was the director of Tata Institute of Social Science, right? Quite privileged. The bank manager can come to his home, and even governor, and can take the KYC compliance. But still he was forced to really present himself in the bank to show whether he is alive or not to get the pension from the government of India, which is, I feel, is a torture. So in a human right, human right also has a mandate that you should be avoided from being tortured. Beyond a certain age, or at any age, if you are not physically in right shape, or perhaps mentally not right shape, forcing you against your will to really travel to any place is a torture. It's a kind of torture. Now with traditional legacy system, millions of people are being tortured, dragged in the absence of the technology. So it's about, so there is nothing right and wrong. There are always grey shades into that, right? So we can't really take a righteous decision as we took into demonetization. Economic offences are not matter of murder and a crime, right? These need to be dealt with a very careful, thoughtful way. You can't really say, okay, black money is growing, so just do the demonetization. You can't do the knee-jerk action. So we have to see the comparative scenario. What if there is no AI? How the human violation will be done? And what if there is a technology? What kind of human violation has increased or decreased? And I think that's a relative assessment we need to really do. A lot of people say that Colloquium has come, right? I would not like to really make some religious comment, but those who say there was a good era, right? You need to really go back into the history, and we see that today you are living in one of the best time on this planet. Today your population is 7.2 billion, right? And roughly almost 6 billion person are having the mobile phone in their hand. Today everybody has access to education, and I think right of equality, right of education, right of life, right of expression of our opinions, all these rights, which human rights we are talking in conferences and books, these all rights we are able to exercise because we have got the mobile phone in our hand. When I did my engineering in 95, when I graduated, my specialization was optical fiber. I've always studied optical fiber in books, and just like electrons, I was thinking how the optical fiber looks like. When I joined my first company, I saw optical fiber in the corner. I just went ahead, took the optical fiber, closed my eyes and hold it for a minute. I said, wow, आज तो मोक्ष मिल गया, भगवान के दर्शन हो गए, right? The entire 4 years I have studied something, and today I am able to really see. Why I give this reference? Because we were studying human rights all these years in books, but this is the moment, this is the peak of Kali Yuga. All of us, we are able to exercise our human rights, right? Today anything happens to you, you can really go stand out there, start your mobile phone, capture the video and do live streaming, right? Very rare chances that until unless you are not willing to really sacrifice your human rights, nobody can really do that. And that power God has not given you. That power artificial intelligence has given you. Now let me give you and break this myth. There is nothing about artificial in artificial intelligence, right? I thought over it. Let me give you example. So there is a natural sugar and there is the artificial sugar, and both taste similar or maybe similar. I never tasted artificial sugar. Now while you drive a car in Mumbai roads, right, I hate driving, but all these Ola and Uber guys, whichever religion they follow, right, whether Islam or Hindu or Sikh, they trust more on the Google map than the God, right? And this Google map is a culmination of, it is a so-called artificial intelligence tool, right? What is intelligence? I think all of us, we can really read, right? So Dr. Gangopadhyay has explained it perfectly. It is extremely difficult to define what is intelligence, but you can actually identify who is intelligent man by looking at his actions, whether he can really read, whether he can comprehend, whether he can really take a decisions. Now if that is the definition of intelligence, right, and this intelligence we have gathered based on our experience, based on our learning from the environment, right? So if, let's say if I say I'll give you $10 million, jump from 7th floor, and once you come down, I am holding a cash, $5 million, never seen in my life $5 million, but I will definitely give you $5 million, Dr. Swapnil. Why? Okay, you have never jumped, right? You don't have experience, but you have learned from others' experience, right? You have seen a lot of movies. You never know, right, whether you're live or die. Anyway, so we have learned, right, because we are intelligent. We have learned by observing our own behavior, observing the behavior of others, observing by learnings of others, right? And that makes us perfect cognitive human being, because our cognition works, our conscious mind works, and we are intelligent enough. Let's take this definition back to this Google map, right? Sorry, sometimes I really get distracted, right? So you have to really bring me back. I force hard to really bring back on the track. So this Google map, there is nothing artificial. So millions of people, those who are driving vehicles in Mumbai, right, they all are in real time feeding their data to Google Maps, right? Let's take our gear back 15 years back. काली पीली टैक्सी वाला, अरे उस रोड पे मत आना, वहाँ ट्रैफिक है, ये दादर में पानी भरा हुआ है, इधर मत जाना, इस रोड को क्रॉस कर देना. What they were doing? Are they sharing artificial intelligence, or they were sharing the real information? Real person sharing the real information in a real time. Then how the hell this information which Google Map is giving you in a real time can be artificial? Right? So one of the take back, you don't have to really follow my philosophy, but I think there is nothing artificial in artificial, right? And if there is a artificial in artificial, this is bound to go down, right? This is the real information, real knowledge which is passed over to you, right, in a real time. Now what is the difference? Why 2 or 3 people or 2 or 3 cabs guys are doing it? Today millions of people in a real time, their knowledge, their data, their information are sharing over some technological infrastructure, right, for massification of decision making. So my definition of artificial intelligence is, it's basically augmentation of intelligence at a mass scale for taking the right decision at a scale, and there is nothing artificial, right? So, and you need to really go back and see, are you really a human being? Are you a creation of God? There is no evidence whether God exists or whether you are a real human being. If you really start thinking, you might feel that yes, you may be a biorobot, right? Elon Musk has declared that yes, he is alien, right? So until unless we don't find any evidence that yes, we are a real human being, we have to really put a question mark, right? Not to subscribe to this philosophy that we are a biorobot. But if in the future it comes to be true that we are a biorobot, our intelligence will also be artificial. But let's park that discussion for a while, right? The information, the knowledge which is coming at a large scale for whole humanity can really take a decision, a right decision. And when we talk about taking the right decision, it is about empowering human being. It is about uplifting human being, right? Let me give you another example. I prepared a PPT, but I'll just park it, right? Because some of this stuff both of you have already covered. On this planet there are 7.2 billion people live, right? India, our population is almost close to 1.4 billion. Out of 1.4 billion, roughly close to 150 million, and even more than that, which is equal to Russia's population, are unbanked, right? Why Adani is Adani? Why he has become world's top 5 richest person? Because he is close to God, he has got more intelligence, he is more hardworking. Because he has exploited an instrument called banking. he has more debt than combined people in entire Bombay. He knows how to use this instrument called banking. There are millions of people, roughly 25% world's population, which is close to almost 2 billion, they don't have this banking instrument in their hand. And hence they will remain poor. If you are born in Bastar, even if you are double MA, right, even if you are more intelligent than the most of us, we are over here, because we think in cities like Bombay that we are here, we are earning more because we are intelligent. No, may not be true, because we don't have the data. Because we were born in the right time, in the right families, we got the right education, right, and we were born in the right location. If you were born in Bastar, perhaps you would have not exploited these opportunities, right? So somebody who is even 10th fail can really make 30,000 rupees in Bombay, and somebody who is double MA or PhD find difficult to make even 25,000 rupees in Ranchi or Jharkhand or maybe Bastar here, right here in India. And somebody who's 10th fail, right, taking drugs, will draw social security in Europe, don't have to work. What do you say? So it is not, so where you are born, that determines your wealth, right? This is a discrimination that determines what kind of education you will be able to really access, right? So I'm not trying to really talk moralistic gyan, but I want to really prove a point. In last 10 years, so I was in Vice Chancellor's conference in Udaipur, and I gave them example, whatever the money India government has spent in last 70 years, right, a fraction of money Coursera and edX has invested, which is close to almost half a billion, so combined roughly around $1 billion invested by these two companies, and they have spread education which America, India, China, Russia, all the world governments in 250 countries could not have done that by spending trillions and trillions of dollars. How they could have done? Power of internet, power of cloud, right? Power of MOOC, power of artificial intelligence. And today the highest number of enrollment on Coursera is from India. The biggest beneficiary of this education democratization is from India. So it doesn't matter whether you are born in Bastar, whether you are born in Jharkhand, whether you are born in Nalasopara or South Bombay or Navi Mumbai or New York, you all have the same quality of access of education, right? And even if you are not enrolled in MIT, you have access to the open courseware of MIT and Stanford. So you can't cry that, okay, I didn't have the money, my father were poor, I was born in Bastar. No, you can't really give these excuses. Today, mobile penetration among youth students is roughly around 97%. Laptop penetration is roughly around 3%. But all education, you can really have access on mobile phone. So if we are talking about the human right violation, I think this is another example how AI has enhanced human right capabilities, right? Now let me play a devil's advocate, right? So yes, when you are dealing with that scale, because all the while millions of people, billions of people, their voice was not heard, right? Because who hears the voice and who propagate these voice? English speaking audience in India, especially propaganda run by the English news channels, right? And across the world, this is the same thing, right? Who hears the voice? This is the echo chamber. An educated guy is raising the voice, which another educated guy is hearing that voice. Privileged guy is complaining about lowering his privilege to somebody who is already privileged, right? So this is a loop. The guy, those who are at bottom layer, nobody hears them. Nobody talks about their human rights, right? Today, India has got 4.7 crore pending cases, right? So while you was talking, I searched on Google and saw, okay, so you mentioned about judges, right? Judges are not working. This is a harsh reality. Nobody wants to speak. We are living in colonial era. Still they are taking a leave of 2 years, 2 months. right? Okay, I may hope you can really advise where I have to really stop so that I don't go behind bars, right? Speaking against them, I don't understand law. But is it fair? The protectors of human right are actually violating the human right. In a private company, most of us, we say, although we whatever say gyan we want to really give outside about work-life balance, the reality is if the work is not finished, there is no leave. I think Reliance, there is a time for coming, but there is no outgoing time, right? Work is more important, right? Where is work-life balance? Where is the human rights, right? They are paying you, yes, you need to really work, and you are empowering the human rights of millions of people. Today, we can really claim Reliance for a lot of violation of the human right, but the Reliance Jio has empowered millions and millions of people, gave them the mobile phone, and they are able to access the education. During COVID period, I run another edtech company, Muni Campus, and during COVID, Supreme Court gave the verdict. All of the university protested that they cannot conduct the examination, but so UGC was adamant. They went to the Supreme Court, including Mumbai University, and they said, we don't have the technology, we can't conduct the test. I said, you are IT superpower, why can't we conduct the test, right? And we developed a technology called AI proctoring. AI proctoring is a technology. Let me give you an example what AI proctoring can really do. So we were conducting examination for Goa University. 10 o'clock test start. The gender our system says female. Location Panji. 10:15 gender changes from female to male. Location changes from Panji to Delhi. Bingo. Right? System locked up. We manually checked it because we generally don't leave the entire decision making to the machine. We check, and we actually check the photograph here coming in the feed, right? The girl photograph automatically changed to the boy. IP address change. Now imagine thousands of people, students are appearing for the examination. Manually, is it possible to really check, right? No, it is not. And if you don't conduct the examination, those who are honestly studying, they get the same marks, right? So typically among students, this is always said, if somebody gets 95%, you don't feel happy if you're getting 70%, even though he is the closest friend, right? You will feel happy if he fails, right? You may pretend. So imagine that you are a good person, studious person, and somebody is a cheater, backbencher, and he gets 90% and you get 70% because you honestly appeared for the examination. This is a discrimination because your honesty played against you as a discriminatory quotient. You will not get the opportunity, right? So discrimination is again a violation of human right. So my suggestion to all of you, perhaps, which I follow a principle which is called first principle. First principle is about cutting the clutter. Cut the clutter around human right. What is the definition of human right? What are the fundamental theses which are covered under the human right? What is the law? Law is basically structured frame of rules and regulations. These are strict rules, just like a mathematical rules, right? Not exactly mathematical rules because there are multiple interpretations which is not there in mathematics, but closer to the mathematics, and you can really build the model. So today, now let's come back to this idea, these judges, right? Why 4.7 crores pending cases are there? It's not just because they are going for holiday or 2 months. It is because we have absolutely horrible technological infrastructure. We have not embraced technology. Right? We are completely relying on human being. We are still relying on Amitabh Bachchan's picture. We are still relying on heroism. We are still relying on avatar of Rama who will come and solve the cases. It is not going to happen. We are still relying that Mr. Modi will come and one guy will take this country to the moon. No, this is not going to really happen. You need to really build a trust network which is going to really work on the crowdsource. You need to really build system which can really make humans as a superhuman, which can really augment your capabilities, augment your intelligence, which will improve your efficiency, which will cut down the cost, and which can really take the decisions at a mass level. Now today, There is a chat bot released by OpenAI, which is again Elon Musk company. I would recommend go and check this chat, which is GPT chat, right? It will blow your mind, right? It will completely blow your mind. And this project was just started a couple of years back, 3-4 years back, right? And see the kind of learning this chat GPT has done. You can actually converse just like a human being, right? I encountered one technology which is IBM's Watson. IBM Watson won a Jeopardy game, which is like Indian Bonvita in 2011, right? And then the new avatar came in 2015 when Ginny Romuthi was here, and she was here to really launch IBM Watson in Bangalore. So I was invited there. So the moment I entered into Leela, I saw a robot dancing, right? And that robot's name was Pepper. It's a light diversion, and he was singing a song called Gangam. So I was thrilled. Everybody was shaking hand. I also went ahead, shook my hand. He introduced me. Hi, I am Pepper, and I am powered by IBM Watson. I said good. Before that, I watched a movie called Star Wars. So I was in that mood, right? Robot. Then the conference started. Ginny Romuthi came on the stage. She delivered a keynote. Then VP Steve came, and Steve invited Pepper. And Pepper just walked just like a human being. And he came in the center of stage, and he started addressing the audience for almost 30 minutes. I was in third row. I had a goosebumps, and still I have goosebumps. Right? I love movies. I've seen thousands of Peppers, thousands of robots in movies, but I could have never imagined that I have to really hear in my life some robot. Damn it, a robot is addressing me. I'm a master. I have a habit of speaking, but some robot will come and give me the gyan, and that's the least I can really expect from my life. And he was talking like a human being. In 2018, and that was a street, and Pepper is being deployed, Watson is being deployed in Manipal Hospital Group. You go to Tata Memorial Hospital, and you see the violation of human rights. Thousands of people travel from across the country, right from Dhaka, Bastar, Ranchi, all other places, and they sit in a queue for what? Not for a treatment. They are sitting over there for diagnostic. And when you are at third stage, every hour is difficult, right? And cancer is like a death warrant. You know that you are going to die, and you are going to die a very terrible death, right? That's the kind of notion. It's not absolutely true, but yes. And you're waiting doctor to really diagnose you. It takes almost 3 hours, 3 days, 4 days, a week's time. And majority of diagnostic facilities are centered around Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, these places, right? B-class towns don't have the facilities. A breast cancer diagnostic machine costs you roughly around $2 million, which is close to almost 14 crores, 15 crores. And you don't find in B-class towns. Now imagine that this Pepper, Manipal Group, was training Watson on diagnosing cancers. All your diagnostic reports are electronic forms, right? And Watson can read roughly around 700 million documents per second. How many? 700 millions. How many in crores? 70 crores. When I was doing my engineering, we had a author, Millman Helkias, electronic circuits. I could take almost half an hour to read one page, and still I can't claim that I could understand that, right? And this damn it Watson can read 70 crore pages and comprehend and understand. So, matlab lanat hai, right? Now, what is the impact? Why we are talking about that? Because this Watson can read thousands of research papers which are being published every day, which doctors don't have the time. They are numerous kind of new medications, treatments which are available, and this Watson can really read and can recommend to the doctor. So let's imagine that you are in Jharkhand, you get your reports done, right? You upload these electronic report to the Watson. Watson can really diagnose and will give the recommendation to the local doctor that what kind of cancer you have, which body part you have a cancer, what stage, and what kind of treatment can be prescribed to you. Of course, you're not going to listen to some machine and really start doing the chemotherapy. Now imagine that Dr. Swapnil, you are there, right? You have any doubt, you can discuss with some oncologist in Bombay. Make a call, just transfer your reports. He will have access, right? And in front of him, he will have 10 options, and he will really select which best option you have. Today, even if and when MR is doing that, you have a problem, right? We are saying that yes, machine learning algorithm may be biased, so humans are biased. The kind of mess MR has done, they bribe doctors and they bribe them to really prescribe you some costly medications, which is a bias induced by money. At least in machines, whatever the bias is coming, if these biases are brought in by the human being, those who are designing, right? And perhaps the data, right? That's a separate problem, right? So I think humans have a bias, and I think that's where Satyuki, you spoke about ethics in AI, right? And there are a lot of talk which is happening in ethics in AI, but we are not talking about the ethics which human being brings. All these years, last 2000 years, we have been hugely biased. We as a race, as a Indian, we as a race, we are hugely biased. We are racist. We became slave because we are racist, right? We are biased, and those biases are still exist in every police department, every interview panel, right? Every university, right? We are wholly biased. And one biased guy is telling the other machine that you may be greater evil, right? It may not be the greater evil, because while machine learning models are built, how do I explain? Let me give you. So how machine learns? Machine learns the same way as human being learns, right? So machine over here is a CPU, right? Which can really compute. So let's say you want to train machine to identify between cat and dog, right? How as a human being we have learned? How do you know that this is a black jacket and this is a white shirt?
Somebody told us once.
Who somebody?
In our childhood said this is a cat.
Your mother told, right? If you would have said that this is a pink shirt, your father has corrected the model, right? Otherwise, if your mother has taught you that this shirt is a pink shirt, you would have still said that, and everybody around you. So there's nothing wrong saying it is pink, but you have been taught that this is a white and this is a black. That's the reason you are saying it. It is a black and it is a white. How do you know that this is a cat and this is a dog? Because you have been taught thousands and thousands of times, right? Now, whatever machine learning and deep learning we have built, deep learning is basically built on the neural network, and it is built on how the human brain functions. So Professor Jeffrey Hinton, he has studied human brain for decades, and then he built deep learning models in University of Toronto, right? He was declared as a madman, but he got Alan Turing Award in 2012 for his contribution. So whatever the facial recognition and all those stuff technology you're seeing, contribution partly goes to him. So this gentleman, whatever he could replicate about deep learning is whatever little we have understood about our brain, how our brain functions. So the way human being learns, essentially the same way machine learns. So if you want machine to really predict you, whether it is a cat or whether it is a dog, you feed 100 images of cat, 100 images of dog, and then if you feed a new images of cat, machine will be able to tell you with certain degree of precision whether it is a cat or a dog. Just like when you really buy your phone and you train your phone on face, the phone actually captures your photograph, a lot of photographs. So the brain, this phone, the deep learning algorithm, AI algorithm which is working, which understand the photograph. Actually machine doesn't understand the photograph. Machine understand the pixels, right? So the photograph has got the pixels, right? and these pixels are converted into zeros and ones. Computer only understands 0 and 1, right? So there is a matrices of zeros and ones which machines understand, right? And if density of these zeros and ones, these matrices changes, machine does not open your mobile phone, right? If I use your mobile phone and try to really open, it will not open because there is a difference in these zeros and ones density. Those who have studied matrices, but I'll not overemphasize it. The point which I want to convey, that machine learn the same way as human being learns. So machine will also gather the same biases what human being gathers. The only difference that machine biases will be less biases than the human being. The reason being, you can feed infinite amount of data to the machine, right? So today, let's say you want to sell vada pav in Vijayawada or say Sikkim. You don't know whether people will like vada pav or not, right? So you have to really ask somebody over there what people like, what they don't like, what they eat, right? And you need that data, that information. Now as a human being, it is extremely difficult for you to really gather those information and take a decision, but machine can really do, right? Machine can really analyze millions of tweets and can predict that based on the trailer whether how much money this movie will make, right? Whether this movie will be hit or not. Every day Reliance Jio analyzes, right, the sentiments of customers. Reliance analyzes millions of customers' data to predict which customer is likely to churn, right? So let me give you an example. Let me just giving an example. So machine, so if you have say 2-3 persons data, right, like for example doctor is there, a radiologist, he has been trained, he can really look at your x-ray or MRI reports and he is able to really see where is the crack, right? But if your bone is cracked, even a normal human being can really check it. But if there is some hairline crack, that requires a trained radiologist. Now radiologist has a limitation in terms of really during COVID period you have seen that they were trained, right? They didn't have the bandwidth. Now over here machine cannot get tired, right? Machine can really work 24/7, right? 365 days, and you can really feed enormous amount of X-ray data or MRI data, and machine can really predict the way it can really predict whether it is a cat and dog. It can really classify, right, whether you have COVID-led pneumonia or not, right? What kind of fracture you have. So there is a company called Cure AI based in Bangalore, which does that. There is a company Niramai in Bangalore run by Dr. Geeta, and Dr. Geeta built an algorithm to detect breast cancer, right? So I gave you example that any cancer diagnostic machine cost you almost 15 crores. What she did, using the thermal photography, she can actually predict with a 99% accuracy whether you have a breast cancer or not, right? What you do, you take your mobile phone, which will cost you 10 to 15,000 rupees, put a thermal camera on top of that, which will cost you another 25,000 rupees, 35 to 40,000 rupees, your multi-million-dollar device is ready. And you can take thermal photograph even in mall over here or anywhere. No touch, right? Non-intrusive, democratize the cancer diagnostic, right? Now my question to you, is she violating any human right, or is she really assisting you in the human right? Assisting you. She will violate provided if she starts selling the data to others, right? She will violate if she starts selling this data to insurance companies so that they can really charge exorbitant amount of the money from you, or they can really decline you, deny you any insurance. Or if this data goes to the employer, or if this data goes to anywhere where they can really have any kind of discrimination to you, right? Of course any technology has two sides, just like human being has two sides, their devil and their God, right? We all have two faces. So technology also has two faces and depends on whose hand this technology is, right? Now, so the point which I want to really draw, that the way human being learns, the same way machine also learns, but machine biases you can really reduce down by feeding more and more amount of a data, right? So let's say you build a model for cancer prediction based on 100 patients, your accuracy level will be low. Just like a doctor who has seen 100 patients and doctor who has seen 10,000 patients, whom you will rely, right? A pilot who has drove say 5,000 hours of flight versus a pilot who has drove say maybe 200 hours. Huh?
You will not value any because you are driving, you are not flying, you should fly.
Yeah. A pilot. So let's say whom you will rely?
Flying more.
Flying more, right? So generally I trust more on the Air India's pilot because during the rainy season, because they are old, they have seen lot of turbulence, right? So I know that yes, you will be landing alive, because I have a phobia that I'll die in air crash, right? So same way, if machine is feeded more amount of their data, and by the way, pilot don't drive flights, it's a machine which drives. Pilots became in charge only when there is some turbulence, right? When the machine actually goes off the track, right? And then there the pilot comes into the picture. You can really put a dog. Maybe after 10 years you will require a dog not to allow not to touch any instrument in the flight, right? You were asking some question. No. I become sometime Asharam Bapu, right? So I would love that if you can ask questions.
Two flights have crashed in India and both were Air India or AirX. Manipur and
Maybe they were young pilot, or maybe the machine was bad, right? Okay. So but you corrected my data, right? So I got some data input. So I'll be more suspicious on Air India pilots. So let's take an example of driverless car, right? In India, there are roughly around 23,000 people die in car accidents every year, right? बहुत लोग हैं, 25-30 हजार मर गए तो भी फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. Government hided lot of deaths about COVID, not a matter of joke, a very serious matter. But anyway, so the vision of Elon Musk is that build a car and train the car, because anyway humans, we learn by our experience. And what is the composition of experience? What is the least denominator of the experience is basically data point, right? And feed enough data, enormous amount of the data that their error rate actually reduces down. And that has led to the invention of driverless car. If my grandfather was alive and he would have seen this driverless car, he would have died with a heart attack. The bhoot aa gaya, right? But on serious note, this driverless car is actually far better than the human being. This is going to be more responsible, because you are driving sensibly, and somebody who's a drunk, who's a rash driver, he comes and bangs you, and you die not because of your mistake, somebody else's mistake. When every day I travel from Hiranandani to Belapur, and when I come back alive at a home, I say this is a magic, right? And my atheist man becomes I start believing in God, right? ये तो सिर्फ भगवान कहीं कर सकता है, क्योंकि जिंदा एक बार ऐसा हुआ, मैं किसी एक यूरोपियन के साथ बैठा बेंगलोर में, right? Because both of us to attend some fair, both of us we landed at one time. So वो होटल का कार आया, मेरे पास होटल का कार था नहीं, तो that gentleman gave me a lift, मैं बैठ गया. And ये तो अभी मिस साइरस मिस्त्री के बाद ये कार में पीछे बेल्ट लगाने का फैशन आया है. I first time saw that yes, they also use the belts. I started laughing at what he's doing, right? And whole 2 hours this guy was afraid, sitting, right? that he was praying that he reaches hotel alive, because he has never seen this kind of chaos, right? And we are born in chaos, right? Bumper to bumper, that's our experience. Now, he didn't have that experience. Now, so driverless car, of course it is, people debate that how driverless car will be possible in India. But believe me, wait for a few years, driverless car will be a viable option here in India. If we have to really value human life, we need to really start relying too much of a human intelligence, because human beings are too biased and too self-centered, right? The another problem is, more educated we are, more self-centric we become, and machine also have the optimization algorithm. Let's say AI at Amazon, right? Their optimization algorithm is working to optimize the sale, optimize the engagement. So YouTube's AI algorithm is working to optimize the maximum minutes of engagement. So do Facebook's AI algorithm is optimized to increase your engagement in Facebook, so that they can really throw you more ads and you can really click those ads and buy, right? Ironically, best AI brains are working to really find out which ad you're going to click next, right? That's another story. So do human beings also have our optimization algorithm. All of us try to really optimize our interests, right? What are our interests? Self-interest, more money, right? More resources, more food, right? Better position, better percentages, better job, better designation, right? And there we violate the other human beings, human rights. We discriminate, right? We give preferences to those who are similar to our color, those who speak our language, right? Those who will save our job, or those who will really exchange the favors. So our optimization algorithm constantly working, right? Why Sharma ji gives always preference to Sharma ji? Sorry, I'm using a wrong word, but just use it as a placeholder, right? And this is a reality, because they are trying to really optimize. Why there is a Thakurwad, there is a Brahmanwad, right? There is a Dalitwad in this country, because people are afraid. They are with a lot of insecurities, and if they have to optimize their algorithm, our algorithm is also working, our neural network is also working, right? So our optimization algorithm is to save ourselves, optimize our network, optimize our interests. That every politician does, all of us we does, right? But the problem with individual human being, we have a limited experience. It is a limited experience, it is a limited data. So we are likely to be more biased than a machine, right? We are likely to be more biased. So let me help you to clarify and digest this concept. Who will be more accurate, Google Map or you as an individual being? No, aggregated. When, say for example, from here you want to really travel to Belapur, let's say. Who will be more accurate in prediction? No, let's say during the peak period. Even you drive every day. So I come every day on this path. Sometimes it takes 1 hour, sometimes it takes 2 hours, sometimes it takes 1.5 hours. It is extremely difficult to predict the traffic. Extremely difficult, right? And at that point of time, Google will be far better than you individually, right? Why? It's giving you the real time. Moreover, Google has got more amount of data than you on different streets. Google can show you some diversion. Google will say you कि okay, Gandhinagar से left ले लो, इधर अंदर से आ जाओ, right? Which very experienced driver who has worked for 25 years, 30 years, drove on this road will have that kind of level of insight. But somebody who just yesterday came from Bihar and driving the cab, he will not know, he even doesn't know the roads. In London, you don't get a cabbie license until unless the cabbie doesn't have the Google map in his head, embedded in his head, right? So you can't become a driver there. So you if you have to really learn fast, right? If you have to train fast, machine can always be trained faster than the human being. And that's the reason most of the deep learning algorithms, they have surpassed the human level accuracy in facial detection, object detection, text summarization. So today you have a technology available which can really read 1000-page documentation and can give you 1-page summary. Of course, you can't completely rely, right? And that's why you are a human being, right? Because you have other capabilities, right? You can really still connect a lot of data, right? So still your mind is able to really process billions of data points which you are not able to explain. And that is what we call gut feel. There's nothing gut feel, right? Gut feel is very complex, say, function, right? Wherein variables you don't know, right? So in a linear equation, if let's talk about a linear model, which is f of x is equals to say c1 plus x1 plus c2 x2 x3, right? Now you don't know how many x's are there, millions of x's. And when you're not able to define those variables, you dump it and you say that is a gut feel. No, David, it is not a gut feel. You don't have a explanation. You can't really quantify and decode how your mind has functioned, and that's also a problem of deep learning. And that's what Satyoki was talking about, explainability of AI. Why in medical science and other fields people are reluctant to really just blindly follow on the AI models. The reason being, deep learning models are black box. It is extremely difficult for scientists and human beings to explain why GPT chat is behaving the way it is behaving. Let me give you another example. So people think that yes, machines don't have emotions, right? Machine cannot really have a gut feel, right? Machine can only work on a logical, rule-based systems. So I'll break this myth as well. So we have a game called chess, right? Chess is very logical game invented in India. There's another game called Go, which is a Chinese game, which is much more complex than chess. And in chess, in Go, there are a lot of moves which are not logical. Right? It is a Chinese game, and there are multi-million moves in Go. So there is a Korean champion of game called Go, world champion, and there is a company in London. This company name is DeepMind. This DeepMind was acquired by Google later on. So DeepMind built an AI agent which is called AlphaGo. AlphaGo was put against this Korean champion. There is a documentary on Netflix and YouTube. You can really go and watch. You'll love that. And both of these, they played against each other, and the game went for 5 days. Right? Eventually, this AlphaGo won over by 4:1. Right? Second day, AlphaGo made a move, which actually made this human champion off guard, and this human champion took almost 3 hours to took a next move. 3 hours. And that is where he made the mistake. He still made the wrong move and he lost that game. When this game was over, AlphaGo scientists were actually puzzled, because during this game, most of the commentators observed that AlphaGo made some moves which was never done by any human being, right? And AlphaGo was trained on the moves which was played by the best of the players of Go, right? So it was feeded thousands of hours of game video to AlphaGo, and AlphaGo learned. But while playing with a human champion, AlphaGo came up with a new strategies, new moves which never ever any human being has ever done. And that has puzzled, that from where the hell this ghost come inside this machine, and there was no ghost. Right? Later on they realized that this AI AlphaGo could build its own strategy just the way human beings are capable of. You don't speak the same language what your teachers has taught. You don't apply the same legal laws in real life what you have been taught in the classroom. You build your own strategies, and that's what human being capable of. And that's what AlphaGo did. right? So this notion that human beings are only capable of taking these emotional decisions, there is nothing called emotion, right? If you see scientifically, these are basically data points, right? These could be outliers or anomalies or observed behavior, right? Why we cry? Because we have seen other people cry, right? Otherwise we would have laughed, or we could have done other way. That's the only way we have learned. So the point which I am trying to retell that yes, you can really train machines exactly to mimic the behavior of the human being, and what Satyoki was talking about, AI is basically mimicking the human being behavior. I thought this will really take 20-30 years to really reach that level, but today if you see GPT, if you see this GPT chat, you see AlphaGo, what they are doing, they have actually surpassed human intelligence in most of the fronts, right? Where it will lead, I don't know, right? What kind of consequences it can really have, I have no answer, and most of us, we don't have the answer. Where it is going to really violate our human rights, we don't have the answer. Is it really assisting in achieving our human right objectives? Yes, it is. Some part it is not, right? Because in Metaverse, a lot of people will be subjected to harassment, bully, right? You will be subjected to hacking, right? And this hacking will be done by the AI bots, right? During COVID period, China and India, because of China and India tension, the cyber attacks in India increased manifolds, and most of these attacks were led by not human being, by AI bots, right? So what kind of territory we are getting inside, we don't know, but can we really decode this, what is happening? Yes, we can decode, because India is one of the strongest country on this planet which understand mathematics, other than Russia and Ukraine. We have best of the mathematical institutions. ISI is over here, IITs are here, Mumbai University is good institution for learning the statistics and mathematics. And our parents don't consider that learning mathematics is in our DNA, just like Americans. नहीं समझ में आता, दो झापड़ मारो, सब समझ में आ जाएगा, right? So we have some heuristics, right? We have some motivational tool, right? The moment, so why I always say, so my friends in US, these serum friends, they wonder that why India has become the second largest producer of AI engineers and data scientists. You guys are intellectual. I said no. We pretend that we are intellectual, but the moment we see money, we get a spark in our eye, right? So the day we got to know that Canadian company offered, Paytm offered like almost 1.5 crore rupees to 5 Indians in Canada, हमारी आंखें खुल गई. That is 2014. 15 we started data science program, right? And today, 2022, we are the producer of largest data science and AI engineers, because we can code. It is not in our DNA. If there is a money, we'll jump. All civil, mechanical, all law students, medical students, pharmacy students, they all are learning coding, right? We all are learning mathematics, right? We never paid attention in 10th class, same matrix and linear equation we are studying, because it can really pay us more money. So we have that potential. We are greedy, we are intelligent, we are adaptable, right? Our schooling system is, no matter how we criticize, is really good, because it pays a lot of attention on mathematics, right? Coaching classes are robbing, but still they are teaching, right? So we have the right ingredient, right, to really take on this lead. So there is a saying that yes, mathematics is the language through which you can really, Dr. Rao, Dr. Swapnil, you need to tell me where to stop. Right? When Dr. John joins, tell me. He has joined? Okay, wonderful. Because I was told to really keep on speaking till Dr. John doesn't join. So I became Asharam Bapu, right? I was giving examples after example. Dr. John, welcome to you.
No, sir. Yeah, he's joined, but he's not responding. So as soon as he responds,
Okay, another instruction. As soon as he joins, I need to stop. Okay, so okay, he's here. Dr. John? Dr. David? Dr. David, can you hear me? Wonderful. Welcome to you. So over to you. Thank you everybody. Thank you so much. Right? Feel free to really connect with me, and I would be happy to really answer any of your questions.
Hello. Hello, Dr. David. Can you hear us?
Probably you asked him to increase the volume at his end.
Yeah. Sir, I think you have to increase the volume at your end. No, not yet, sir. Okay, sir, just a second. I think there is an issue at our end. We'll just sort it out. Just a second. Professor, can you hear us? Okay, sir. We are just raising the volume more from our side. So we can hear you, but we are just increasing the volume.
Okay.
Okay, it's perfect now. It's perfect now. Hello, Dr. David. We welcome you from MNLU. It's a great privilege to have you, and I hope the time zones and everything is suitable for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are really eager to hear from you, sir. So over to you, sir.
Good morning. Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to try my headphones again. I think it'll be better for you.
So, Professor, we had two speakers with us for this session on AI. Mr. Bhupesh Daheria, who is CEO at AG School of Data Security. He has already spoken, and we had Satyoki, Advocate Satyoki, who is head of litigation team at Reliance company for geo platforms which the Reliance company offers. He has also spoken for his session,
and we were eagerly awaiting for your session. So
Okay.
we may begin. So you can begin with your session, sir. Hope we are audible and visible to you.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Are we audible and are we visible to you? The
I'm
participants?
able to, yes, I'm able to get your audio. It's not very clear, however, I'm sorry.
Okay, just a sec, sir. Sir, is the audio clear now? Is it better?
Much better.
Okay, great, sir. So we can begin with your session, sir.
Very good. Okay. So I'm going to share my slides here so you can see them. Hang on.
Yes.
I'm disabled for slide sharing. Can you just enable that and I'll get them up here?
Sure, sir,
There we go. Okay, so you see my slides now, is that correct?
Yes, they're perfectly visible.
Okay, very good. All right, so thank you all for the invitation to speak with you today and for this opportunity. This is the first time I've had an opportunity to participate in the event in India, and so I'm very pleased and very excited to be invited and to be with you here today. It is your afternoon, it's my morning because of the time difference, but we can make this work by way of Zoom here. So what I want to present this morning is less of a fully realized argument and more of a kind of position paper that will help, I think, put some ideas and some concepts on the table for our discussion. But if you're interested in a more detailed and elaborate approach to these things or treatment of these things, I can certainly point you in the direction of additional materials. So the research that I'm presenting to you today is really based on things I've been doing for about the past decade related to the moral and legal status of artifacts. And I've written a number of books on the subject and published rather widely, but this is a very condensed version of what I think are some of the big ideas, the big concepts, and the big challenges that we face when we start to engage with some of these questions. So ethics is really a exclusive undertaking. In confronting and dealing with others, whether another human person, a non-human animal, or an artifact, we make a decision between who is worthy of consideration and respect and what remains a mere thing that can be used and even abused as we see fit. Now this question matters because it divides the world of entities into other persons who count versus mere things that do not. Further complicating this matter is the fact that the distinction is neither fixed nor stable. The boundary separating who is a person from what is a thing has been flexible, dynamic, and alterable. Now this is actually a good thing. Ethics and law innovate and advance by critically questioning their own limitations and accommodating many previously excluded or marginalized others, recognizing as persons what had previously been considered mere things. The question that now confronts us at the beginning of the 21st century is the machine question. That is, can we or should we recognize AI, robots, or seemingly other intelligent artifacts as socially significant entities with some claim on us? Or are they nothing more than mere things, an instrument, a tool, or a piece of property? Now, responses to this question tend to pull in two different and opposed directions. On the one side, you have those who oppose any form of social status for artifacts by asserting that these technologies are just things or objects that do not possess and will not come to possess the necessary conditions or capabilities to be considered something more. On the other side, there are those who favor extending some aspect of social status to AI, robots, and other artifacts, by arguing that these technological things either have or will soon be able to possess one or more of the necessary and essential properties to be something other than a mere thing. Now, what I find interesting about this debate is not what makes the one side different from the other. What I find interesting is what both sides already agree upon and share in order to come into conflict and debate each other in the first place. And the real problem is not that this shared philosophical scaffolding has somehow failed to work in the face of new and emerging technology. The problem is that it has worked and continues to work all too well, often exerting its influence and its operations almost invisibly and without question. So the problem is not with the artifact, but with the moral and legal categories that we have applied to organize, order, and make sense of things. As Robert Esposito, who arguably wrote the book on this matter, explains, if there is one assumption that seems to have organized human experience from its very beginnings, it is that of a division between persons and things. No other principle is so deeply rooted in our perception and in our moral conscience. Now, this decision and this differentiation is old, very old. It is rooted in Greek philosophy and in Roman law, and it has persisted in Western epistemologies and moral philosophy for at least 2 millennia, often going by and being accepted without question. The unique opportunity or the challenge that confronts us now in the face of robots, AI, and other seemingly intelligent artifacts derives from the fact that these things seem to resist the pull of both reification on the one hand and personification on the other hand. We now have things that, because of their social situation and their embeddings, appear to be something more than mere things. At the same time, however, it seems equally troubling to extend the status of person to these things that, for one reason or another, seem to be less than full moral and legal subjects. And the efforts to resolve this matter have exploded in the past decade. What you see here is what I call the concept map, representing research publications generated in this domain. On the left side of the diagram, there are those who have argued that this very question is unthinkable, a distraction, or even a dangerous idea. For these researchers, machines, AI, robots, whatever, are and forever will be things, nothing more. Down the center are various methods for taking up the question by splitting the difference between the ontological is and the axiological ought. That is, different ways of working with the existing person-thing dichotomy in order to make it scale to the opportunities and the challenges that we now face in the face or the faceplate of seemingly intelligent and socially situated artifacts. And then on the other side of the diagram, we have the right-hand side. There are others who have proposed alternative ways for deciding these matters by challenging existing methods in both moral philosophy and law, providing different ways for responding to and taking responsibility for others and other forms of otherness. Wherever you find yourself on this diagram, one thing is clear. Robots, AI, and similar kinds of artifacts seem to resist or are not easily accommodated to our existing moral and legal ontologies. So what we see in the face or the faceplate of the robot is the reflection of a fundamental challenge to existing ways of deciding questions regarding social standing and status. Consequently, the right question entails that we not only consider the moral and the legal status of others, but we also learn how to ask the right questions about how these inquiries are framed, operationalized, and decided. Ultimately, this means that the machine question is not just a question about artifacts. It is a question about us, about the way we have granted to ourselves the power and the privilege to order and organize all that is in terms of a binary logic, making a cut in the fabric of being and dividing entities into the categories of person or thing. And it is, I believe, in the face of these other forms of otherness that we are called to think beyond existing ways of thinking and entertaining the opportunities and the challenges to think otherwise. Now, for myself, this involves deconstructing the person-thing binary and developing a more attentive and a more nuanced moral and legal ontology, one that is not only more honest about how we actually decide these matters, but is able to scale to the opportunities and the challenges of the 21st century and beyond. And my own work in this area has really sought to challenge the way in which our moral and legal systems have organized the ontological categories, the way that we make decisions about how to categorize new entities, new objects, and we can see over time historically, we have taken things that had been categorized as things and promoted them to the position of person. This has happened with animals, this has happened with the environment, and it is now something that is challenging to us in terms of what happens with AI robots and other seemingly intelligent artifacts. So, I put these ideas on the table for us to discuss and to debate and talk about. But if something occurs to you that we don't get to in the question and answer period, my contact information is there, and I'd like to invite you to send me an email directly, and I'd be happy to answer your questions or point you in the direction of some more resources that would assist you in pursuing these matters and building a response to questions that you have. So that's what I have to get things started. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, David. It was wonderful having you. Just get back to you for the questions just a second.
Great.
What a wonderful and knowledge-rich session it was. I'm sure that all the participants here have some food for thought from this absolutely thought-provoking session. I now invite the participants to pose their questions to the moderator. I request the moderator to please take over the questions to be addressed to the panelists. The floor is now open for the questions.
My name is Rajen Singh. I'm part of MNLU from maybe few days from right now understanding. A new course has been started which is Masters in Intellectual Property Rights. So I gave the exam etc. thinking that I will not pass, but I was good enough to be here. So that is the introduction, and I have set up a few technology companies. Since some people are from Reliance Jio, along with Mukesh Ambani, I set up 2 successful companies, but then I moved out after the family education, etc. We are at MTNL building. We are at National Law School, so therefore law dominates and technology also dominates our today's discussion. Sir, I would say that we need to reimagine the topic, artificial intelligence and HR. Perhaps, if I may, human rights first, artificial intelligence or technology second, and the role of law. Because without role of law, what are we doing here in this premises? And in my humble view, there are 3 basic structures of our country. judiciary, parliament, and executive. And as far as I'm concerned, all three are failing this. A, 1884 Telegraph Act that determines the telephony. Try has come, but later, after privatization. And DOT is on top of that. And Supreme Court says 66A devised by legislation is useless. Throw it out. And police does 7,500 FIRs last year. When Supreme Court asked how many FIRs under 66A, capital A, it has come later. And IT Act is basically E-Commerce Act used today for handling and managing the criminals. So there is a serious problem. Supreme Court says that why in one day you appointed election commissioner. And yesterday or day before yesterday it said Odisha should have a DG police. By 19th December you have. If they appoint in next 30 minutes, they will say, why so fast? So these are the things, and then there are technology companies. So these are the four major players who are involved, technology companies or the owners of technology. And since a patent expert is here, the person who invented or who was assigned the patent, these are the guys who are managing everything. All of us, balanced 99.9999% people are either the subject matter of these four groups or we are the sufferers. So my question is, are we handling it well? Lord Macaulay's law is handling today's India. The Evidence Act came when? Right? When it came? IPC came when? And then our Telegraph Act 1884. So we are living with all kinds of rules. Somebody says 1884, you can't do this. Today a police inspector legally cannot do anything because Home Secretary has to sign that you take the recording of this particular phone. Can the criminal be caught like that? Of course not. So where are we going? So and how can we handle it? And I don't agree with AI word. It should be either mere technology or smart intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? Nothing. So this is my open question, and I am also a participant in this. Going forward, I am willing to work with any agency to move forward on this. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you so much for this question. That was more elaborate, and definitely it's a food for thought really when you said human rights first, then artificial intelligence second, and obviously without the rule of law, nothing can be there. So definitely probably when we meet next time, we will definitely take this aspect into consideration. Thank you so much for this observation. Now coming to your question, when you say rule of law, the presumption is that it would always exist. There is no question as to non-existence of it. And expressly when you say something about section 66A under the Information Technology Act, let me tell you that the whole episode of what had happened and how it triggered is all very much known to all of us. But there is also one point which should not be forgotten, that when 66A was challenged in Shreya Singh's case, what was done was it was said that this section under the Information Technology Act is supposed to be read down. Because what was done was, the petitioner had challenged it on 3 counts. That section 66A, which is basically sending offensive message, was challenged for the violation of provisions under Article 14, 19 and 21. Supreme Court stated that it cannot violate 41 because it is not arbitrary. Then Supreme Court also stated that just because it is 14, 19, you are bringing in 21, that is also not a correct idea. Even though we believe into the golden triangle theory that if 14 and 19 are violated, automatically 21 is also violated. But Supreme Court said that yes, section 66A under the Information Technology Act violates Article 19, that is freedom of speech and expression. Now the catch point is, the freedom of speech and expression is only available to citizens of India, right? So that means when you say that it is not available to foreigners, the foreigner still can be booked under section 66A. So we cannot bring down the law stating that it is struck down. It is read down. Now, so section still remains there. This is first thing. Now, second, usually you know what happens with the police. These sort of notifications, these sort of changes, these sort of the updated things do not come to them. And then usual anticipation is that they would work what the law says. And actually in India there were many arrests which were made because of Section 66A, even though Shreya Singh's decision came out. Now there is another way of looking at it. Some people said that it is a fault of police. Now let's take it two ways, because I was caught in a catch-22 situation, because on one side there were my judges friends who work day in day out, and on the other side there were police officers. In some gathering we were meeting and we discussed the same issue, 66A, what is to be done. So all the judges immediately targeted the police officers. You don't know the law, so you arrested them. Well, then the potent question came in, why did the judges give a police custody for 2 days or 3 days when they were aware about 66A? So actually it's not about being judge, it's not about being police, it's about being aware about law and the legal process. Now probably the time has come where naturally, as you said, that there are some age-old laws, there are certain things that have to be changed. But sir, let me tell you one more thing which is very interesting about law. See, you mentioned about IPC, 1860 it has come into force. We have to revamp it, we should revamp it, all of that stands. You also mentioned about Indian Evidence Act. But the funny fact is that the Indian Evidence Act 1872 still stand as the least amended law. I mean, that's the due credit of the writer of it, Sir James Stephens, right? Now, it's too much of social, thought-provoking things that should come out, and then we should look at the rule of law in totality. Yeah.
In the same manner, if you look at 65 capital B,
Yes.
without 65 capital B, 66A yesterday is 67, 68, 69, all up to 75 are useless.
Yes.
And 65B is normally not able to meet
Correct.
the requirement of criminal intent.
Correct.
The moment hash value does not match, the person walks out.
Walks
There is
out.
no problem.
Absolutely.
So Evidence Act needs maybe 1 or 2 sections, not more.
Not one.
There are 29 sections, that is not the
Correct.
time to mention.
Correct.
If so many sections require tinkering, even if 1 or 2, 3, it should be re-accepted.
Re-accepted. Correct. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. There is always that give and take. Like, see, the legislature also has to think now that if these kind of situations come, what could be the retaliating thing? These kind of conferences are meant for this, that we have some kind of a thought-provoking thing. That good that you have brought this point into consideration. Yeah. Thank you so much. Is there any question, anything that we would be very glad to answer it? Yeah.
Mr. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yes. David, see what happens, particularly if I give an example of profession. Okay, so there is
You know what?
profession.
Can I interrupt you? The audio again is hard to hear.
Can you hear me now?
Barely. Sorry.
Yes, can you hear me now? Better?
It's hard, yeah.
You speak into this.
No problem. So, see, basically, I'm quite sure that more or less the same will be scenario in your country. In our country, the certain professions like medicine are governed under some laws. So, for example, unless you do not have certain type of degree like MBBS or MD or MS, you cannot do certain things. Right? Now the question is that how do you see that, say, a robot doing a heart surgery or a knee surgery, number one scenario, and how do you see from the lens of the politics, from the lens of the a business model? I'm using a word very consciously. After all, particularly we Indians very easily get carried away and influenced by the Western culture. So do you see these all those new concepts like a metaverse or machine learning or VR, the virtual reality, all those, do you think these are the business model, or do you find some real sense in it? Because what is happening now, the key will be to make the ethical and the judicious use of this technology. Else what will happen, people as per their vested interests, despite the larger interests, they misuse this concept. And another analogy is that if life is the most precious thing on this earth, and a robot can perform a surgery on a 6-month baby or a person of 300 kg weight, then why cannot a judge make a simple decree or order just by reading the file? So let there be a replacement of judges also. Let robot do that job. So how do you see overall from the business standpoint?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I appreciate the fact that we're looking at a technology that is not limited to one geographical location on Earth, right? So the technology is something we have to respond to globally, but the way that we have responded traditionally to these kinds of challenges is that every jurisdiction, every country responds differently based on their traditions in religion, traditions in ethics, traditions in law, and so that you get a very different set of solutions across the globe. And I think one of the difficulties that we face with the technology, like you were saying, of artificial intelligence, Metaverse, Fintech, all these sorts of things, is that a lot of them are being developed and distributed and controlled by rather powerful corporations that are located in either Europe, the United States, or in the area of the Pacific Rim with China. And these technologies are then distributed globally, not recognizing that the way in which one culture responds to these challenges is going to be very different from the way another culture responds to these challenges. So I think one of the problems that we have, the human beings, in dealing with these technologies is recognizing how we need to bring to the table and into the conversation a wider diversity of the thinking about these opportunities and the challenges that they present to us, and not privilege one particular way of resolving these questions. I think a really good example is the person-thing dichotomy, which European legal traditions inherited from Roman law. This has been very useful for the last 2 millennia, at least in the West, for making sense of how we situate different objects within our moral and legal framework. But it's not the only way to organize things. There are other traditions. In my own work, I look mainly at indigenous traditions from North and South America, in which questions of personhood and questions of thing are less dichotomous. They're less firm, and there's more of a kinship relationship between individual people, the environment, animals, and objects. And I think the mistake we make is when we think that there's only one way of resolving these questions and have a one-size-fits-all kind of solution without being sensitive to these differences that come from these varieties of human responses to these kinds of moral and legal issues that we've developed in the past. So I would be very interested in and very concerned with making sure that we have a much wider and a much more diverse dialogue with regards to how we understand not only the business perspective of these technologies, but also the social impact and how we decide to address the ways in which these technologies often present us with some rather unique challenges as societies.
Thank you so much, Dr. David. It was a pleasure having you here. It's a time for wrapping up because again we have to go for the valedictory. It was really a thought-provoking session, even as a moderator for me. Learned so many things. Want to thank Satyaki for giving that the other side of the technology, like how exactly it actually works. Definitely it relates it to how exactly we take it forward. And secondly, obviously would like to thank Professor who had really nicely tried to give the positive side of use of AI. Recently I was reading Dalai Lama, and I'll quote him and then we just wrap it up. He said, God made human beings to love them, and He made things to use them. Unfortunately, we did the reverse way. We started using human beings and we started loving things. Probably, if all of us start understanding this, that AI is supposed to be used for those who are our loved ones, probably the things would settle. And as Sir has rightly mentioned, the rule of law will survive. With this, we close this session. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. What a wonderful and knowledge-enriching session it was. I thank all the speakers for sharing their valuable insights and the suggested ramifications on the domain. I thank Advocate Satyoki sir for giving an in-depth understanding on the functioning of AI machines based on the mimicry model akin to the human brain and the ethical use of AI touching on the questions of balancing fairness, biasness, accountability, predictability, and the ethico-legal issues. I thank Dr. Bhupesh Daheria sir, who threw light upon the relativity of the concept of intelligence, AI proctoring, and how protectors of human rights are actually violating the human rights in practice. I thank Professor David J. Duncan, who joined us through the online platform. Professor David specializes in information and communication technology, web design, and programming. He is an author of 3 books addressing the information communication technology and ethics. He is an award-winning web programmer and an interactive media designer. We were extremely delighted to have your presence with us, sir, today. I thank our moderator, Dr. Swapnil Bengali sir, for taking a trail upon the evolution of technology through an experiential lens. He threw light upon the imbalance on upgrading the solution and upgrading the technology, and rights as precious as the rights of being forgotten and its equivalents. We now move towards the end of the second session, but before that I have 2 announcements to make. Professor Dr. Laura Edgar, professor at Queen Mary University of London, could not join us today due to the last-minute health issues. Also, the meaning of a colloquium is a close-ended discussion, and it was a delight to have such a rich panel from different domains to come under one roof and share their thoughts. I thank everyone for being a lovely audience. Before we commence towards the valedictory session, I request everyone to please remain seated. The valedictory session will begin shortly in 5 minutes. You will be served the high tea at your places. Thank you so much.